All right, let's get into it. Behind every single life-saving medicine, there's this invisible layer of collaboration that you probably never hear about. Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the biggest players in that space, BioPhorum. It's a consortium that is pretty quietly shaping the entire future of how biopharmaceuticals get made. Now, to really get what BioPhorum is all about, you first have to understand this massive paradox that sits right at the heart of the drug industry. You've got these fierce, multi-billion-dollar competitors who are somehow forced to work together. I mean, think about that. It's a huge shift for companies that are literally built to win at all costs. But they do it because they have to solve problems that are just way too big for any one of them to handle alone. So there's this carefully defined area where the battle lines just get redrawn, and these huge rivals actually become partners. It's called the pre-competitive space. But what does that actually mean in the real world? Well, think of it like a formal truce. All these companies agree to work together on the how. The basic standards, the practices, the technologies that everyone uses. They do this so they can save all their firepower for competing on the what? The actual molecules, the clinical trials, and how they sell their drugs. It's kind of like everyone agreeing on the rules of the road and the design of the racetrack before the big race starts. So why even bother? Well, because the things that slow down drug development the most are the problems that everybody shares. I mean, just imagine trying to get a drug approved when you have to deal with totally different regulatory rules in over 60 countries. Or what if your data systems can't even talk to your partner systems? No single company wins by solving these things on their own because they're industry-wide roadblocks. They hold everyone back. So how do you actually start solving these massive roadblocks? This is exactly where BioPhorum comes in. While you have other groups focused on things like clinical trials or data standards, BioPhorum is the engine for collaboration, specifically in the world of manufacturing and supply chains. And here's the most crucial point. Regulators, they put out these high-level, often really abstract guidelines. BioPhorum's entire job is to take that abstract guidance and turn it into a practical, step-by-step playbook that engineers and scientists can actually use on the ground in the real world. And here's how that translation process really works. First, you get the global guidelines, something like the ICHQ series. Just think of these as the international rulebook for making sure drugs are safe and high quality. Then, BioPhorum's expert groups, like their regulatory CMC forum, they get to work. They debate and figure out the absolute best way to meet those rules. And the final output? A concrete industry roadmap for doing really complex stuff like continuous manufacturing or creating digital twins, making sure everyone is on the same page with those vital quality standards. This map of the ecosystem really shows you how it all clicks together. See, up at the top, you've got the ICH setting the high-level roles, and BioPhorum's role is crystal clear. It's the critical translator that turns the ICHQ series, which is basically the global Bible for quality, into actual practice. This is the connective tissue between big-picture policy and what happens day to day. Okay, so what's the real payoff for the companies that put all this time and energy into this? Well, the impact isn't just some theory, it's something they feel directly on their bottom line and in their supply chains. By standardizing all these best practices, members get their products out to patients faster and with a lot less regulatory risk. And what's really cool is that their work on things like making supply chains more resilient and manufacturing more efficient, while that also leads to real, tangible environmental benefits, like less waste and lower greenhouse gas emissions. It's a win-win. This is just so critical in our post-pandemic world, right? BioPhorum's Supply Resilience Forum was basically a direct answer to the weaknesses we all saw a few years ago. The goal isn't just about manufacturing speed anymore. It's about building these super robust end-to-end supply chains that can actually handle the next global shock, whatever that might be. And this growing focus on huge strategic issues like supply chain resilience has really led to a major shift in how BioPhorum itself is seen inside the industry. BioPhorum has absolutely evolved. I mean, what was once seen mostly as a technical working group, a place for engineers to solve engineering problems, is now recognized as a C-suite level strategic forum. This is where the industry's entire future is being hammered out. And here is the clearest signal of that change. In February 2026, BioPhorum formed its very first strategic advisory board. This event really marks a huge turning point, making its role as a high-level guidance body for the whole biomanufacturing sector official. And just look at who is sitting at that table. This is not middle management. The board is made up of senior executives from the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. When you have leaders from Pfizer, GSK, Lilly, and Merck all dedicating their time, you just know the conversations are about industry-defining strategy, not just minor technical details. So, if you're a leader in this industry, what's the big takeaway from all this? What's the essential briefing you need to know? Honestly, it all comes down to one word: governance. Right. Here's the key insight. Being a member of BioPhorum isn't a passive thing. You can't just pay a fee and call it a day. To get the real value, to actually use these roadmaps and benefit from all that shared knowledge, it takes active strategic engagement from inside your own company. That means you need a team that participates, that brings that knowledge back home, and then drives it into practice. And that brings us to the final and I think most critical question. The standards, the technologies, the regulatory approaches for the entire next decade of biomanufacturing, they're being developed right now, in these collaborative rooms. Your biggest competitors are there, co-writing the rulebook for the future. The only question left is, are you?